Praise the Lord. I welcome you back to A Glimpse with Pastor Roger, in which we'll be learning Matthew chapter 20. Matthew chapter 20 is divided into four parts: the parable, the prophecy, the petition, and the power. In the parable, we see the analogy in which Jesus likens the kingdom of heaven to a landowner who hires men to work in his vineyard. Then we see the agreement in which he agrees to pay each worker 1 denarius per day. And he keeps on hiring people throughout the day, some at 6 a.m., some at 9 a.m., some at noon, some at 3 and some at 5 p.m. And then we see the argument in which in the evening the owner instructs them to be paid, and when each of them received 1 denarius a day, the workers who began at 6 a.m., they protest and they say that they should have received more than the ones that came later. And then we see the application in which Jesus says the last will be first and the first will be last. Then we see the prophecy in which we see the grief and the glory. The grief is, Jesus says that he will be betrayed to the priests by Judas. Then afterwards he says that he will be sentenced to death, and he will be mocked, he will be whipped, and he will be crucified by the Romans. Then we see the glory in which he says he will rise again on the third day. After that, we go to the petition, in which we see the mother of James and John comes and asks Jesus to allow 2 of her sons to sit on her right and left side in the kingdom. So we see the desire. Then we see the denial, in which Jesus says that the seating arrangements in the kingdom will be assigned by the Father, not by the Son. Then we see the detest, in which the other 10 disciples are angry with these 2 brothers. And finally, the demand, in which Jesus tells them that the Gentiles lord over others and therefore they feel that they are great, but in God's sight, those who become a servant of others are great. And lastly, we see the power, in which we see the cry of the 2 blind men. Then we see the criticism, the crowd tries to stop them, shouting for help to Jesus. And lastly, we see the compassion, where Jesus is filled with pity and Jesus restores their sight. So finally, Matthew chapter 20 is divided into 4 parts: the parable, the prophecy, the petition, and the power. I trust you're blessed with this session. Celebrate the Christ life. God bless you. Shalom.